I got to read one of these, social media posts that the president put out. This was the day after the Fed announcement, and let me just read it for you really quick. I brought my computer to make sure I got it right, but he said, "Too late," which is his nickname for Jerome Powell. "Too late, Jerome Powell is costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars. He is truly one of the dumbest and most destructive people in our government, and the Fed board is complicit. Europe has had 10 cuts. We have had none. We should be 2.5 points lower and save billions of dollars on all the Biden short-term debt. We have low inflation. Too late's an American disgrace." Okay. So, I can't believe that, he talks about other people in our government like that. It's a little bit shocking, but let's talk about what his point is here. He's trying to make the point that the interest that the federal government is paying on its debt is extremely high, which is true, and that if the Fed cut rates, it would help the government save money. Now, why does President Trump care about that? Well, maybe because of some of the tax cuts they're looking to put through. They want to make sure that they can show that these tax cuts are not going to further push up the deficit, and by saving all this money, that it would help justify some of the tax cuts. Now, that's a whole nother conversation about the tax cuts. Most of them are just an extension of the tax policies that are still in place from the first Trump administration, but I digress. Here's my point. The Fed doesn't care. It's not the Fed's job. It's not part of their dual mandate to try to help the government, lower their costs and balance their budget on what they pay for their debt. That's not what they're all about. They're all about maximum employment and price stability. Like, that's it. They've said this like how many umpteen thousand times. So for Donald Trump or even Bill Pulte, the people that are criticizing Jerome Powell, to take the strategy of trying to make this the reason why he should do it, I don't think it's the right move. I read a really awesome article in Housing Wire the other day, and it was Logan's article, and he was talking about the fact that if Trump really wants to get ahead on this, maybe focus on the things that the Fed actually cares about, and that would be reminding them about their goals on unemployment and that we're tracking in that direction, and maybe put the emphasis there. I couldn't agree more. Try to speak in the language that is actually going to resonate with the person who's making that decision versus, some other tangent. Although it may be true, it's not what's going to move the needle, right, with Jerome Powell. So anyways, I think it's hilarious. Bill Pulte, literally called for, Jerome Powell to resign after that meeting. The president's asking him to lower 2.5%. This is all craziness, you guys. It's just noise that's out there, and it really means nothing. It's not going to move the needle, and frankly, it's probably just going to make Jerome Powell dig in even more. I think with any sort of a negotiation, not that this is really a negotiation, but with any negotiation, with any argument you're trying to win, you got to make sure that you leverage on the right points. And that's where I think anybody who's trying to leverage Jerome Powell, from what I can see, they're taking on the wrong strategy. Talk about the things that he won't be able to refute, right? Talk about the things that are factual and are in line with his statements that he's previously made. Maybe that could get Jerome Powell to take action sooner. I will say there's some other inconsistencies with Jerome Powell in the fact that he hasn't lowered rates yet, because although we do not have inflation down to the 2% target rate, it's close, but it's not there. He had made previous comments that, even if inflation is up around 3%, if CPI, PCE, core PCE, that the Fed funds rate should be, a lot closer to whatever that number is. And yet we're still up at 4.25%, I think, to 4.5%. And yet we see, inflation numbers in the low to mid 2% range. So, I do think there is some inconsistencies, and what we're seeing here out of the Fed chair is fear. Fear that something might happen with inflation. I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and I think we should be more concerned about the employment numbers, and maybe that'll get him to move off the dime. Anyway, that's my take on the Fed meeting. And, I think we're just going to have to wait and see. I do believe we'll see Fed rate cuts in 2025. I do believe that. I don't think he can hold out for the rest of the year. It's just, I think we need a little bit more time. Like I said in the previous podcast or a couple episodes ago, we got to get the China thing sorted out. I think that's a big looming concern. And until that's ironed out, I don't think you see a lot of move from the Fed unless we see significant changes in the unemployment numbers jumping up, which, it's possible that they do.